I'm out here this evening doing some glassing on a bean field that was planted maybe, I don't know, maybe a month ago, a little less than a month ago. Just sitting here waiting for some deer to come out. And I was going to go over everything that I carry with me on one of these summer scouting trips when I'm trying to glass up a big giant buck. Probably the most important thing that I keep in my pack is this Sawyer's lotion. I really like this stuff. I just like it better than the spray. Sometimes that spray can get a little nasty, and this stuff, you just lather yourself up with it, and it really does a good job of keeping the ticks and the mosquitoes away. I also have my clothes treated with the permethrin, so you always want to do that. Okay, so glassing wise, there's a couple things that I keep with me. The first is just a decent pair of binoculars. These are the Hawke's Frontier EDX. These are 10 by 42s. They're really good binoculars. These things are fairly expensive. You don't have to buy the most expensive binoculars on the market for whitetail hunting. Hawke, I'm a big fan of them because they have a budget binocular for whatever your price range is, and you're not going to be disappointed in them. So I'm looking over this big bean field here, and I'm not using the spotter yet. All I'm doing is scanning with my 10 by 42. So I'll set up here and just kind of periodically check for movement in the woods, just check for any kind of activity going on in the field. From there, I will go from my binoculars to my spotter. Now, the spotters can be ridiculously expensive. I mean, you can spend thousands and thousands of dollars on spotting scopes. If you are a mule deer hunter out west and you're looking for a tine sticking up in a valley in the mountains where a big mule deer might be sitting behind a rock pile or something, and you're wanting to see if that deer's a 180 or a 165, maybe you need to spend a bunch of money on a spotting scope for that. Whitetail hunting, I really like this Endurance series by Hawke. Why do I like it? Well, there's a few things that I like about it. One, it comes in 85 millimeter. I like a big spotter for whitetails. I don't need to be lightweight. I don't need to be portable. You're not walking 10 miles carrying this thing around. You could. It's not that heavy. But they also make a 65 millimeter version of this. That's also really good if you're on a little tighter budget. It's a little bit cheaper. Got plenty of range on this thing. I think it's a 75 power and it goes down to 25. I rarely go up to 75 power. I'm always, like right now, I got it on about 35, and then that's the sweet spot where I like my spotter. If you get too zoomed in, a lot of times it just gets a little bit hairy. In my opinion, almost any spotter. So you lose your field of view. You also lose some quality of what you can see. Again, maybe if you spent $4,000 or $5,000 on a spotter, maybe that's a different story. I've never spent that much on a spotter, but I've used them before. They're nice. Okay, and then from there, I like to have a phone adapter for my spotter. This one's made by Hawke. It's adaptable to any phone and any optic, so it doesn't have to be a Hawke optic to use it. What's nice about this phone adapter is it's compatible with any phone. You don't have to buy a new one every time you get a phone, which can be a real pain for some of the brands that has the Hawke or has the phone adapters to film on your through your spotter. Okay, so that's my setup for my optics. That's all I carry with me when I'm glassing for whitetails. Now, you got to have a good tripod. You don't have to have the lightest, greatest, and most expensive tripod. This one's a Benro, and I don't know if they make this one anymore. I think it's called the S2, but it was a combo with the head and the tripod, and it's a fluid head. It's really nice, very, very smooth, and that's pretty important when it comes to whitetails or glassing in general. It's just having a decent fluid head. The tripod's not as important for whitetails. You can buy any old heavy tripod that you can find, but I would recommend getting a decent fluid head here. It just makes the process a little more enjoyable, less kind of jerking around, and it'll just be less frustrations for you. Also, just bring me a little chair out here. This is just a little three-legged chair that I've had forever that works pretty good. And then on top of all that, I carry a big camera with me, like a video camera. This is the AX700. You don't have to have this, obviously, but you got your phone and your spotting scope. And then I love my little Latitude 22, I think is what this model is for scouting. It's a really good size for scouting and hunting. I use it for everything. They're coming out with a size that's a little bit bigger than this. That'll be really nice too for when you have a lot of camera gear. It's just the perfect size. All this stuff fits inside this pack, and then I strap the tripod and fluid head on the outside of the pack with these compression straps that are on the pack, and just go. So I'm going to sit out here and hopefully we see some big bucks. I think doing this in the summertime is one of the most underrated scouting missions you can go on. On a good night in the right bean field, you'll be able to see almost every buck that's in your area, especially if you can jump around to a couple different bean fields and see what's going on. It's just a really good way of getting some inventory of bucks that are going to be in the area, and it's fun. All right, I better shut up and be quiet. Something else that you still got to pay attention to the wind. I mean, you don't want to set up on a field edge and have your wind going into where the deer are going to come out. That's a super important factor to think about when you're doing this kind of stuff. And then stay in the shadows. I like to stay in the shadows. I'm kind of leaned against this tree here, and it's got me shadowed in real nice that the deer aren't going to be able to see. And that's why you want to get you some optics to where you can stay far away from these deer and observe them without bumping them around. Even though it's, late July right now, I still do everything I can to not bump deer. You don't want them to get on to you before season even starts. Every time you bump a deer, you're educating them.